I want to get into our news for the night. Our first story is about these Chinese students. I guess we'll get into this first because this is just delicious. So delicious. Today at a Oval Office press conference, Donald Trump announced that the United States is prepared to take in, get this, 600,000 international students from China. 600,000 students from China. Are you tired of winning yet? Got what you voted for? This is a story from Fox News that says, quote, Donald Trump said 600,000 Chinese students would be allowed into the U.S. to study at colleges amid ongoing trade talks with China. Speaking at the White House on Monday, the president's announcement signals a potential thaw in U.S.-China relations after escalating tariffs and restrictions on international students. He said, quote, I hear so many stories that we're not going to allow their students. We're going to allow their students to come in. It's very important. 600,000 students. It's very important. We're going to get along with China, he said. Trump's student visa offer comes against the backdrop of trade talks with the Chinese government. Currently, about 270,000 Chinese students are enrolled in U.S. universities. In May, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced plans to aggressively revoke visas for Chinese nationals. But Trump has since shifted his tone, telling reporters in June he's always been in favor of welcoming students from China. So, last year, the government approved 400,000 student visas. There's currently roughly 250,000 Chinese students enrolled in colleges. Trump says we're going to have 600,000 additional Chinese students come in. And already the bulk of the foreign students are Chinese and Indian. We're going to double that number, at least, or triple it, depending on if the existing student body population is included or if it isn't. Now, what's fascinating is that obviously this administration has backed down on its maximalist immigration agenda. Like, let's just be very, very clear about what we're saying here. The Trump administration backed down. It promised one thing, we're getting something totally different. Everyone can acknowledge this. What we were promised was mass deportations. And what does that mean? It means door-to-door raids. All these illegal immigrants, we know where they are. We're going to identify them. We're going to remove them from the country. We're also going to slow or altogether suspend most immigration into the United States. That's sort of how it was sold to us last year. Maybe not even necessarily by Trump, but by his followers, by his influencers, by the surrogates. We were sold a bill of goods in 2016, 2020, and 2024 that together represented an America First maximalist immigration agenda. And people had visions of the 10 million illegals under Biden being removed from America. That illegal immigrant labor would be cracked down on using E-Verify, making it more difficult to hire these people. The largest domestic deportation operation since Operation Wetback, among other things. What we're getting is different. Basically, since Trump got into office, he has walked it back and said, well, we're not going to deport the illegal immigrants that have jobs. And which jobs did he say? The jobs that have the biggest percentage of illegal immigrants working them. Meat processing plants, farms, construction sites, hotels, restaurants. Basically, from the time Trump got into office, he started to talk about a carve-out, instructing DHS to slow and eventually suspend the deportation of illegal immigrant labor. We saw very quickly that the numbers were not where they needed to be. We were not getting enough removals. We were not getting enough arrests, even. And so we were promised one thing, we're getting something else. What's more, we're getting all this legal immigration. There's talk of stapling green cards to diplomas, bringing in these international students. They approved the maximum amount of H-1B visas for this year already, about 127,000. So we were promised one thing, we're getting something else. We're promised a maximalist agenda. They're walking that back, letting us down gently, and the enforcement is something that's completely different. And all we're saying is, we want what we were promised. We want the America First immigration agenda. We want Trump to follow through. But I, and many people like me, knew that it was never going to happen. We knew last year that it was never going to happen. This is why I take immense satisfaction in the disappointment. Because last year, Republican influencers were paid to lie. They were paid to disregard the truth and ignore the evidence, and they were effectively complicit. Maybe they were the most responsible for creating this perception that we were going to get something other than what was realistic. They said mass deportations enthusiastically. Last year, when Trump said he would staple green cards to diplomas, they said to disregard that. They said, pay no attention to that. That's not real. Now that we're getting the realistic immigration agenda of an administration that is beholden to Wall Street and Silicon Valley and the needs of capital, now you say, well, we told you so. Did you get what you voted for? It looks like you fell for it again. The Republican Party, which is controlled by the wealth interests, the special interests that profit from the labor, once again, they tricked you. They lied to you. They used nativist rhetoric. They used xenophobic rhetoric. And by xenophobic, I mean that in the colloquial sense. They played up this talk about immigrants and deportations, Haitians eating cats and dogs. They did that self-consciously to trick you. It was a calculated deception. They knew that white people had been radicalized by the millions of illegals that Biden brought in. And so they leaned into those sympathies. They leaned into those feelings and that antagonism. And they did that deliberately, knowing that that would make you enthusiastic about voting. And they knew that was a bait and switch because they all realistically, they did not ever want mass deportations. The billionaires, the oligarchs, Trump in his heart of hearts does not really want mass deportations, is not really committed to that. And as a matter of fact, what they really want is more cheap labor.
I want to touch on that point as far as cheap labor, because this is something that drew me to Trump, where Trump for the longest, and even Nancy Pelosi was talking about this, and Bernie Sanders years ago, I'm talking like 20, 30 years ago, Trump was the earliest one from my recollection talking about using the tariffs. And the whole point in using the tariffs, I thought, was to incentivize more U.S. labor, creating more jobs, more factories in America, so therefore more Americans can work those jobs rather than sending out those jobs to China or other countries and feeding their economy. And I can remember Nancy Pelosi, maybe I'll include that video right now, where Nancy Pelosi was on the board and she was describing how us sending out all of our jobs and all of our labor and the impact that it's done on the Chinese economy compared to our economy and how we benefit from the labor that we provide, that we get for importing, or I should say exporting things to China. When China exports stuff to us because they make it in China, it fuels their economy. They're the sellers. We're the buyers, right? We're buying something for cheap and then reselling it to America. But what Nancy Pelosi was pointing out, and what Donald Trump has pointed out, and what Bernie Sanders has pointed out, especially with Nick Fuentes, every time I hear somebody say oligarchy, I think of Bernie, oligarch. I think of just Bernie in my mind. But what they were calling out is the fact that, no, we need to make that stuff here. Stop letting the billionaires and the oligarchs rely on cheap labor because they don't want to pay Americans a decent wage and they don't want to fuel the American economy. And they're looking at it from a selfish point of view of what benefits them and their self-interest and them becoming more powerful, making more money, rather than what's beneficial for America. So Trump did lead us down this road. He did try to push this on us in order to get us to vote for him. This was one of the incentivizations. It was, and we did fall for it. And that's what's so disappointing about it, because I think this is the case for a few different things that Donald Trump has done. A few different things, whether it's the Epstein, whether it's what's going on in us bombing Iran, a lot of these different things that Trump ran on, a lot of people that voted for him, I voted for him, we're disappointed based on the results. It just is what it is. And a lot of people, the people who are most disappointed perhaps are the ones because they put like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, perhaps, and maybe others, because a lot of people looked at Trump as, damn, this is our only hope. This is our only hope. Now, Trump may have done some things when it comes to removing boys out of girls' sports and stuff. You know, we clap for some of the things, but when it comes to delivering on the things that are truly going to impact the country, I'm not sure that he did that. And it looks like we're moving in the opposite direction than the path that he was selling us on, bringing us towards. So
just the kinds of labor that they need. The high-skilled tech labor, Indian programmers, illegal immigrant berry pickers, farm workers, meat packing workers. They knew all along they needed and wanted the labor. And they knew that they would say one thing to get your vote, and then once they got it, they would do something else. You fell for it. You fell, and that's the oldest trick in the book, by the way. They've been doing that forever. The Republicans forever have been pandering to the nativist sensibilities of white people and telling them, law and order, they're all going back. We're going to make America great again. In different words, they've been doing this forever. And then when they get in, they govern just like Democrats. And you fell for it again, like you've fallen for it many times, like you fell for it in 2016. That's what we say. Now, I see all of the cope online. This announcement is made. And like, look, I don't know what to tell you. 600,000 Chinese international students is not America first. It just isn't. And I'll tell you why. Because at the Ivy League universities, their student body is like 24% from other countries. Those are all seats that could go to Americans. Why would we fill up spots at Harvard and Yale and Stanford and MIT with foreigners? That's not America first. So there's finite resources here. They get those seats, Americans don't. And we're not saying you have 0 foreign students, but a quarter of them, 25% are international. And then what do? After they graduate from university, they'll apply for something like the OPT program, and they will get preferable treatment from the government. For a company to hire a Chinese tech worker out of college on the OPT program, or the OTP, optional training program, for a company to hire someone on one of these work visas, they don't have to pay certain taxes. They don't have to pay as high of wages. And they know that these workers are dependent on the employer for their visa. So they're effectively like indentured servants. So they can pay what they want. The conditions are what they want. They control those people. And those are the good jobs, the high-paying jobs, the important jobs that should be going to Americans. Instead, they're going to foreigners. They're going to Chinese people and Indians. And who does that benefit? Well, it benefits the foreigners, and it benefits the employers that hire them. This is not America first. Now, you go on Twitter and you say, we can't have this. Why is our America First president suggesting this? Like, the words came out of his mouth. He was elected on America First. He won in a landslide. They all claim that this would confer upon him a mandate to use state power to just do things. And it would inaugurate a golden age. Like, this is what they said. You sold us this. You promised this. Those were your words. We're going to use state power to just do things and inaugurate a golden age, and you're all going back. You said that. You said that. That was your promise. You're our vengeance. No, but this time we mean it. Why, oh why, then, is that president telling us we're going to bring in 600,000 Chinese students? What could possibly be the reason for that? What could possibly be the reason? Wasn't the whole argument that he doesn't have to run for re-election, so he's beholden to no one? Wasn't the whole argument that if he gets the House and Senate, then, we could just do things? So why? Why? Why is Trump talking about 600,000 Chinese students? And someone like myself goes out and says, hey, this is ridiculous. This is not what we were promised. We're against this. We don't want this. And what do all of Trump's supporters say on Twitter? People that hate the Groypers are on Twitter today saying, oh, well, Trump is just saying that. Okay, but why does he need to say that? I see people making excuses, and they're saying, well, it wouldn't be better if Kamala won. Hang on a second. Who's saying it would be better if Kamala won? All we're saying is we don't want 600,000 Chinese students. And there's this phenomenon where it seems that Trump's biggest cheerleaders, they have a bigger problem with me than they do with Trump's terrible policies. And this is what we talked about last week with the visas. What is actually the job of these influencers? Is their job to speak on behalf of the people to the president? Or is their job to speak on behalf of the president to the people? In other words, is their job to channel the grievances and express the sentiments of the people to power? These are our demands. This is what we want. We won't support you unless we get this? Or is their job to talk to the people on behalf of the power and to explain to the people why they should continue supporting the power no matter what? And when the power betrays the people, here's why that's not a big deal. Here's why they don't really mean that. Here's why that's actually okay. Whose side are you on here? Loyalty to Trump and the GOP is a means to an end. What is the end? The end is America first. The end is that we free our country of foreign influence from Israel, from immigrants, from intelligence agencies, from ethnic interest lobbies. The goal is to free America, to restore America, to make it a European civilization again, to make it a Christian civilization, free of foreign influence. If Trump is not doing that for us, by slowing deportations for illegal workers, by bringing in hundreds of thousands of Chinese students, by bowing to Israel, then Trump must be, at the minimum, chastised, called out, shamed, criticized. We must cease supporting him. We must pressure him. We must voice our displeasure at what he's doing, at the minimum. But they seem to be more concerned about how we voice that displeasure and whether we're still going to vote for Trump or whether we'll still vote for Republicans. Now, let's get to the bottom of it. Forget all this stuff about they're saying, I'm saying. Let's just talk about what's going on here. The reason that Trump is doing this is because the business interests want it. That's why. Why do we get immigration into America at all? Legal, illegal, high skill, low skill. Why is it happening? It's happening because it is good for the people that have all the wealth. That's the bottom line. There are people that own productive assets that make money, and there are people that do not have assets and they sell their labor. There is capital and there are workers of various stripes. Capital needs the cheapest labor possible. That is that's the biggest expense in their business. If you own Walmart, what is most expensive if you own Walmart is the labor. It's not the goods, it's not the logistics or the fuel or the real estate. It's the receipt checkers, it's the cashiers, it's the managers, it's the corporate executives, it's the labor. That is one of the biggest costs. That is a cost they're trying to get lower. How do you make labor cheaper? You bring in more of it. You bring in a lot more of it. As the supply goes up, the price goes down. The more of something there is, the cheaper it becomes. The more abundant something becomes, this is basic supply and demand, the lower the cost is. So as long as wealth is powerful, as long as wealth is politically powerful, you're gonna have infinite labor. Why does Trump want 600,000 Chinese students here? Well, he doesn't, but Elon Musk does. Silicon Valley does. Silicon Valley wants the Chinese programmers because they're cheaper. Because they're cheaper and they're easier. We can bring in these Chinese people, train them up real easy, get them to work for us. They're super cheap. They'll do what we say. It's not impossible for Americans to do these jobs. It's just going to cost more. It's going to cost more to scout them out. It's going to cost more to train them up. It's going to cost more to provide benefits and a living wage. It's going to be more competitive. But that's good for America. That's good for the American people. That's good for the American worker because we keep the money here in our country. And Americans that live here, that have lived here, are going to get the good jobs. They're going to get the skills that are valuable. They're going to get the money. They're going to get benefits. They're going to have a good quality of life. And a lot of more Americans who can get those jobs are going to be upwardly mobile and climb the ladder. That's good for America. Even if it's more expensive for the wealthy, even if it's more expensive for the bottom line of the wealthy. Lower profits for the most valuable companies, which means the numbers aren't as good on Wall Street for the asset managers that own the majority stake in those companies like BlackRock and Vanguard and so on. But it's better for America. It's better for Main Street. It's maybe more expensive for Silicon Valley and Wall Street. But the reason that the Republicans are bringing in all this labor is because the Republicans are owned by the business interests. That's why it mattered that Trump took $270 million from Elon Musk. That's why it mattered that he took $200 million from Timothy Mellon. That's why it mattered that he took all this money from the billionaires. And so did all of the congressmen on the Republican side in Congress, because if they take the money, they're beholden to the money. They're beholden to wealth. They're beholden to capital and to the system. And that's why they will bring in 600,000 Chinese to work at Intel, to work at the American tech industry. That's why they'll allow the illegal immigrants to stay here, because it's big construction companies, because it's big agriculture companies that employ the illegal immigrant labor. That's why. So now the reason I spell all this out is to say, trusting Trump is like, that's not politics. Politics is to use our power. If Elon Musk has money, well, we have votes. Okay? Elon Musk can bribe Trump with money. I want 600,000 Chinese students. But we have the votes. So we can go to Trump and say, well, let's say there's 1 million voters that will not vote for you if you bring in visas. This is how we use our power on the politicians. Maybe they have the money, but we have people power. At the end of the day, they need to turn us out to vote.
This is why we hear all the negative things about him. This is why people want to convince us to hate Nick Fuentes. The people that want to convince us to hate Nick Fuentes, they don't care about all the race baiting and all this other stuff and the insensitivities here and there. This is why, because it's money and power. And he has a whole lot of people following him. And when you talk it directly as he says it, and it just makes common sense, and you call out the contradictions that have been presented to us, this is why they become scared. And this is why he has the following that he has. It's a combination of a bunch of things. It's the reaction. It's a reaction to black fatigue and all the other things that we already spoke about. but it's also calling out the hypocrisy. It's calling out the hypocrisy. This is why, in my opinion, Tucker, Candace, and they're a little bit different, but like a Charlie Kirk, this is why they're all insecure when it comes to Nick Fuentes, because he's holding everybody accountable. And he's doing it in a way where he doesn't have to sugarcoat, walk on eggshells. He's direct. He doesn't owe Trump anything. He doesn't owe anybody else anything. He can just say it exactly as it is. This is why people are attracted to him. I saw somebody write a comment about in the last video that I put up, like, why do so many black people like Fuentes? And then somebody responded and said it's because he's genuine. Maybe that is what's drawing a lot of people to him, not just black people, but people overall. People are just surprised when the people that are not supposed to like him, right? The people that they're trying to convince us, well, you should get mad emotionally because he said the N-word and you should not like him. It is what it is. Like I said before, I have more of a guard up with people that try to be my friend because I've seen how that's worked in the past. I keep going back to Malcolm X, talking about the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats are the foxes, the Republicans are the wolves. You know the wolf doesn't like you. You know the wolf's trying to eat you, but the fox is going to smile in your face before they rip you to shreds. What Nick Fuentes was just saying is we're not supposed to like these politicians. We're supposed to leverage our power in order for them to work for us and do what makes the most sense for the American people. Elon Musk does it with money. We have to do it with votes. It's not enough to just say, I trust Trump because I like Trump. You're just as bad as the other people that continue to vote for the Democrats and the liberals just because it makes you feel good. That's your feeling. No, that's why stuff never gets done for those type of people. That's why people think that they can run and campaign on one thing, but then when they actually get in office, do something completely different because they're still going to have your vote and your support no matter what. People better start taking notes on Nick Fuentes.
This is where we get together and we form a voting bloc and say, if you're not serious about curtailing immigration, we won't vote for you. Just like how Elon Musk would say, if you're not serious about giving us the labor needs that we need, we're not giving you money. That's politics. So when you see Trump say something like this, and he says, we're going to bring in 600,000 new Chinese students, and people are telling you, it's cool. No, he doesn't mean it. Don't say anything. Don't voice your displeasure. Don't say you're not going to support him. Whose side are they on? They're class traitors. They're traitors to America. They're working for Trump. They're working for Trump, who's working for the billionaires. This is the only way to think about politics. Loyalty to Trump is not the end-all, be-all. Loyalty to the Republican Party is not the end-all, be-all. We have to take our own side. Don't take Trump's side. Don't take Elon Musk's side or the Republican side. What is a Republican? That doesn't mean anything. Take your own side. You are white. You are working or middle class. You have student loan debt. You sent out 400 job applications. You didn't hear back once. Take your own side. If Trump isn't giving you a job, don't vote for him. Oh, he's better than the Democrats. For who? For who? Trump is better than the Democrats for Israel, for the oil and gas industry, for Silicon Valley, for Wall Street. Is he really better for us? I don't think so. My student loans got like reactivated or something. You know what Biden did? Biden made it so that medical debt doesn't go on your credit report. That was good for me. Biden tried to forgive the student loans. That was good for me. Now, I'm not saying vote for Biden. I'm not saying vote for anyone in particular. Don't you understand? I'm saying Republicans want you to eat a shit sandwich and be okay with it because you're taking one for the team. Ben Shapiro is going to sit there and say, Israel needs $25 billion, but if you expect me to forgive your student loans, well, that's not basic economics. He's taking his own side.
Hold on. I just had to interrupt it. I did not want to interrupt it. I try to let Nick do his thing, but I can't. I just had to share this. Hold on. I got to share this with you. So I write my notes down. Look right here. I'm not sure if it'll be in focus, but maybe I'll just take a picture of it. I wrote down, dude is sharp. He's going to become what people probably thought Ben Shapiro would become. And he just mentioned Ben Shapiro. I haven't seen this. I'm reacting to this for the first time. This part, the only part that I saw was the part where he's talking about black people. This I'm all seeing for the first time. The reason why Ben Shapiro was so attracted to people because he used to have that slogan and stood on it more, I believe, before, from what I saw, facts don't care about your feelings. The reason why people have turned on Ben Shapiro is because he's allowed his feelings to factor into how he sees facts. Nick Fuentes is standing on facts, and he's unapologetic about it. This is why people are leaning into Nick Fuentes, even people that you would think wouldn't typically be leaning into him. I'm just sitting back and I'm observing and I'm learning, just like I learned from a lot of different people. I don't need to like Nick Fuentes. I don't need to like Nick Fuentes to see dude is making sense. Perhaps we shouldn't go into it with whether or not we need to like or dislike somebody and just look at it. Are they making sense? Are they speaking from a perspective where they're standing on the things that they say people should stand on? And I was just going to say, are they speaking the truth? Are they being genuine and honest? Does he believe the things that he's saying? And I believe he does. Whether I agree with them in entirety or not. I don't agree with anybody in entirety. I shouldn't even have had to say that. But I truly believe that the things that he's saying, he 100% believes in.
Get it? We are supposed to take their side. We're supposed to have this team player. I'll vote for Republican no matter what. Okay, you won't forgive my student loans? Okay, well, that's because the free market said so. The free market says that Republicans have enough money to bomb Iran, but not enough money to pay for my student loans. And I'm going to vote for that because I'm an idiot, because I'm a sucker, because I like getting I like when my money's taken from me. I like being screwed. Like, that's you. You're a fucking cuck. You understand? You're a fucking loser. Like, do you get it? You're sitting there rationalizing like nothing has gotten better for us. Nothing has gotten better for us at all. At all. They changed the name of the Gulf of Mexico on the map. They're changing the name of the Pentagon to the Department of War. They bought a 10% stake in Intel. They're bringing in all these visas. They're bombing Iran. Trump, I've seen what you could do for others. Bless me in the same way. They won't. They won't do it. You vote to get screwed and you think you're on the team? They won't give you jobs. They won't let you into Harvard. They won't forgive your student loans. They won't cut your taxes. What have they done for you ever? Take your own side. Introduce a little chaos. You know, I'm like the Joker giving young white men the gun and saying, hey, man, you got to create your own luck here. Gavin Newsom, Trump, Kamala, but how about I will vote for whoever says white. I will vote for whoever says they're gonna help me. As long as Trump is just helping, you know, this, and by the way, Silicon Valley, it is literally a collection of Jewish spies, immigrants, Indians, Asians, cosmopolitan atheists. Like when you look at Elon Musk, he's a Redditor atheist immigrant. Mark Andreessen is like a liberal atheist. The All In podcast, one of them's name is Chamath, and his last name's unpronounceable. David Sachs is a Jew. It's like, so Silicon Valley is the epitome of what MAGA is supposed to be set against. They are the wealthiest elites. They are transnational. In many cases, they're foreign nationals. They are cosmopolitan. They're as liberal as it gets. By definition, they're liberal. They're progressive in that they are transhumanists. They're technologists. And Trump, in many ways, is beholden to them, and we were okay with that. It's just downright sick how white people have been tricked by this scam. So, and to get to the point, you have people on Twitter, they have a laserized profile picture, they have these bios talking about, you're going back, it's a Trumpenreich. They think they're on the team. They're not. They're the mascot of a team that fucking hates them. You are sitting there in a mascot costume with the foam finger and everything for a team that hates you. For a team that doesn't care about you. For a team of cosmopolitan, transnational, foreign national, atheist progressives that, who do you think is behind the H-1B scam? Who do you think is behind all this stuff? When you see the new construction owned by Indians, when you see all this new money coming in from Asia, who do you think's doing that? So, do not be gaslit by these people that will cope. Anything that Trump does, they will cope and seethe about it. They will say, oh, well, when Trump says something bad, disregard that. Oh, Trump said something good. Here's why Trump is still awesome. Vote for Republicans no matter what. You have to just let go of that. Stop being the sucker. Stop being in the cuck chair. While the Silicon Valley Indians are having their way with your country. Earlier in the year, I'm old enough to remember Vivek Ramaswamy say that Americans are losers because they don't do their homework and they don't do math triathlons or whatever. And everybody said, oh, Vivek is going back. And then Trump endorsed him for governor of Ohio. Can anyone explain that one to me? Hey, John Doyle. Hey, Mystery Grove Publishing. Can you explain Trump endorsing Vivek, the fucking anchor baby, for governor of Ohio? Care to explain that one? Or how about the other Vivek? J.D. Vance's son, who's an Indian, whose mom is a tiger mom, who was brought together with her husband by the tiger mom, Amy Chua. You want to explain that one to me? What's the cope for that one? You're a cuck. You are in the cuck chair. Silicon Valley and Wall Street, foreign nationals from Israel and Asia are fucking your country. They're raping your country. They're raping the Republican Party. The Republican Party is doing tricks on it, and you are sitting in the corner cheering it on. You are sitting in the corner, cheering it on, celebrating, just loving every minute of it, saying, all right, golden age, Trump got elected. Oh, they bombed Iran. That's okay, guys, that's okay. Oh, they're bringing in 600,000 Chinese. It's okay. Oh, they're not deporting any illegal immigrant farm workers. Oh, well, they're not talking about the census. They're not talking about the census survey. Pathetic. So you gotta remove yourself from this Republican. It's like a Stockholm syndrome. That's the Chinese students. It couldn't come at a better time. We just got done last week. I saw some Twitter account, Fugitive Caesar. The State Department made an announcement that they're going to trawl through 50 million visa applicants or visa holders and see if anyone is anti-Semitism. And one of these cocksucking MAGA shills goes, take that, Nick Fuentes. Screw you, see? And not 3 days later, 600,000 F1 visas for the Chinese, really? So which one is it? Why are we playing these games? Every other week, it's a battle in the Trump administration. We're going to do the visas. We're not. We're going to take them away. No, we're not. And meanwhile, the clock just keeps ticking. And we get closer to Trump leaving office. Call me when you're serious about putting America first instead of messing around with the GOP. I mean, I did that when I was 19. And then I grew up. Then I kind of realized how it worked very quickly. And unless and until the people are willing to use their power, capital will always control the GOP, and the GOP will always do what capital wants. until the people exert their power, until Americans get together and say, Elon Musk is not a fucking American. He just is not. He is not an American. I am. You are. Until the Americans are ready to get up and say, listen, we're not going to vote for you unless you're looking out for us. Not Elon, not Miriam Adelson, but for us, you're going to continue to see this kind of stuff. But we're going to move on. We're going to get into our last story of the night about this Israeli attack on a hospital. It just gets worse and worse over there. Let me fix my hair, though. Here we go. I think I'm getting a haircut this week. It's getting a little shaggy here.